Just like Tony and Marie in the West Side Story, um, the minutes seemed like hours and the hours like days. And when you did come together, nothing else in the world mattered. You were blissfully oblivious to everything and everyone else. Your partner's touch felt electric. Conversations between the two of you were easy. Laughter flowed. You couldn't imagine there would ever come a time when you didn't feel this connected, this passionate, this complete. However, here you are now, today. Your relationship has taken a backseat to all the other little things in life, like work, kids, in-laws, bills. You'd rather check your email than go to bed early with your partner. There's animosity and tension. You bicker and snap at each other all the time. You don't see eye to eye like you used to. Every little thing seems to set you off. Maybe even you can't stand your partner. Sometimes this occurs, or there's anger or animosity towards your spouse or your partner, your significant other. This absolutely happens after betrayal. If, of course, you are still with your partner. Some of you watching may have already left or have been left. Anyways, speaking of West Side Story, Tony and Maria were doomed because their intense love was prematurely cut off, as we all know if you know the story of West Side Story. Now, you might feel doomed in a different way, powerlessly stuck in a relationship where your love has died. Your story can indeed end that way, no doubt it can. If you or your partner are choosing to reconcile, however, it doesn't have to end that way. We never get to see the ending of Tony and Maria and their life together, because obviously, if you know the story, you know what happened. But we can venture to have a good guess on how it would have went. Tony and Maria get married in a joyous bilingual ceremony with lots and lots of dancing. They declare their deep gratitude and love to each other and pledge undying love before jetting off to a Caribbean honeymoon. Upon their return, Maria discovers she's pregnant, and then a year later, the entire town get together for Tony Jr.'s christening with some singing and some dancing. The family is absolutely, from the outside, complete and looks happy. And all of Tony and Maria's friends start to actually get self-conscious about their own relationships. How come they're not as happy as Tony and Maria? But they are unaware that Maria feels overworked around the house, and she wishes Tony would help out a little more with the baby. Their friends and family have no clue that Tony feels like his wife isn't attracted to him anymore, and that their New York City rent that they're quibbling over money about is intensified their arguments. These two once star-crossed lovers now find themselves at odds with each other more often than not. And before you know what's happening, they wake up in a completely different story that nobody wants to watch. Unfortunately, here is where emotional needs are not met or addressed, and affairs often occur. This is certainly not to blame or point fingers, rather just to help understand one of the many reasons some step out of a marriage. And again, its emotional needs are not met. Now, some people say there's 4 basic emotional needs, up to 12 emotional needs. But basically, when I talk about emotional needs, I mean anything from your core needs. I don't care if it's physical. I don't care if it's spiritual. I don't care if it's sexual, intellectual. It's the core needs that we all need. When we start not finding those within our relationships, we start looking for them outside of the relationships. That's one of the many reasons people stray. Anyways, the pain of withering love is intense. So gripping that we are often taken over by our fear of losing it. Often we're not even aware of this fear of our vulnerability. Instead, it shows up in other ways. So, we start pointing fingers at each other. We start to find some cause of wrongdoing, and we finger point and we blame and we accuse. Our mentality is, well, if our relationship is wrong, it's not my fault. It must be the other person's. It starts the cycle of blame where each partner is trying to pin the problem onto the other. Nobody wants to be the victim and nobody wants to be the cause of a wonderful relationship to go sour. So you know what happens next? Both people in the relationship are desperately trying to rekindle what they once felt. But by casting blame and finger pointing and accusing and all this bickering and all this other stuff, you're actually creating more of a distance and discontent that really no couples want in their relationship. And this is probably what would have happened if Tony and Maria uh, were alive, and that was actually a real story. You know, while love is necessary to establish your relationship, unfortunately, love is not enough to sustain it. In fact, believing otherwise is a recipe for relationship disappointment, and for that initial love to wither. Uh, Many people define love differently. Some people think it's emotion. Some people think it's a choice. Some people think it's both. Some people think it's something different. Um, Really, you need tools in your toolbox, in addition to all these emotions and so forth. Lasting happy relationships need good relationship skills. The kind that turn relationships into partnerships and allow you to joyfully share life together. Even if your love feels eternal, as if you found, quote, the one, life presents many challenges, from the mundane, like day-to-day chores, to the difficult ones, such as illness and hardship in your relationship, because all of us are going to have those. But then if you add betrayal onto that, you may be looking at climbing an almost impossible mountain. And for some, impossible. I mean, especially, and I don't want to derail. This is why I look at my notes, because I don't want to go off on a tangent. But we've all heard of trauma loops, and we've all heard of, childhood trauma and CPTSD and things like that. And what one person could consider a non-negotiable, another person, would be fine with, or what one person can get over, another person, simply, as much as they'd love to get over this, as much as they'd love to move forward, their body just won't let them. But again, I digress. Even though Maria and Tony were fictional characters, as I just said, their story, unfortunately, is not. Virtually every couple starting out were once wildly in love. Yet, fast forward a few years, and things have taken a very different turn. And it's all because they were completely unprepared for what it takes to go from falling in love and staying in love. And in addition to that, they were completely unprepared for, if a betrayal were to enter their relationship, how the crap do you navigate that on top of all these other pesky pebbles in your shoes? You can feel happily in love with your partner for a lifetime, but you need the right relationship skills to do it. If you don't learn and practice these skills, the positive feelings between you and your partner will take a nosedive, chipping away at your connection, and your relationship will feel like a constant struggle rather than a joint venture or adventure, which is what relationships really should be. Now, these aren't skills that we all know how to do. Like I said before, a lot of us basically just have skills that we witnessed from our own parents. And for many of us, those were not the best skills. Like, actually, they were probably dysfunctional and toxic and abusive, um, as they were. We are completely unprepared for the inevitable challenges that come with just being alive. However, your happy ending doesn't have to. Your happy ending could start here. Most relationships don't end because of one big event. It's small infractions that snowball over time that really chip away at the integrity and the strength of a relationship, and really breaks it down. So if you are not proactively giving into a relationship, and I mean a relationship with your parents, your kids, your neighbor, your boss, yourself, and of course your significant other, if you are not proactively working to connect, life is just slowly, by default, going to have you disconnect. That's just the way it is. I've talked to many couples who've said, um, uh, it wasn't my wife or my husband's infidelity that ended our marriage. It was their behavior afterwards that did. So basically, I just want to quickly bring into this class 5 absolutely necessary steps to move forward if you guys are reconciling after this betrayal had occurred. Once these fundamental steps, the 5 ones that I'm about to tell you, once these are handled and addressed, then you both or you can start focusing on those pesky little pebbles that are in your shoes that really make every day a living hell, and contribute to the cause of the disconnect in a relationship. So let's just say there was a betrayal. You want to move forward. Where the crap do you begin with this? Number one, if you're dealing with this situation, all contact with the affair partner must end. I don't care if it's a fling, sexual tryst, hookup on your lunch date, 5-year affair, emotionally invested. I talked to somebody the other day who got pregnant, but I don't mean to laugh because it was whatever, got pregnant by the affair partner. And she was devastated to have to tell her husband this. But anyway, all connection must cease completely. And if that means you have to change jobs, you change jobs. If that means you got to sell your car, you sell your car. That means you got to move, you sell your house and move. If it's that important to you, if your relationship is that much of a priority, all contact must be stopped, even if that means getting up and moving out of state. Now, you could still work with the person and do all this other stuff with the person, but contact has to absolutely end, period, non-negotiable. Yeah, I mean, even if you work together, you got to work out a system where there's heavy boundaries to no contact. Simple as that. Because it's just too much of a temptation for the affair partner, too much of a threat and a trigger for the one that was betrayed. 2, they must take full responsibility. Now, I'm going to tell you something. This is crucial because if you don't take full responsibility, so many things happen. You don't learn from the incident. You cannot take into consideration the person you've hurt to the depth that you should. Also, it's really good to learn about yourself, why you did this, what were you lacking, what do you need to work on. I mean, so you need to take full responsibility with no excuses. Unless someone held a gun to your head, or unless someone held a gun to your betrayer's head, this wasn't an accident. It wasn't an I was drunk. It wasn't an I was an addict. It wasn't a oops. This was a choice. It could have been all those other things, absolutely, but it was a choice. It was a decision. Again, unless there was a gun held to the head, there were multiple decisions that had to go into that. Now, that's not to say that they were lacking and they can't be forgiven and they can't be understood and all this other stuff, but they have to take full and complete responsibility. Not I was drinking, not I have an addiction, not this. Those are all things to take into consideration, but you have to take full responsibility. A therapeutic disclosure. I'm sure you've heard of that before. If not, I gave classes on that. There has to be a therapeutic disclosure with this, and it should be done with a professional. You also need a detailed plan to prevent reoccurrence, a detailed plan. So again, whether that's I'm going to switch jobs, I'm going to change my phone number, I'm going to do, whatever the detailed plan is to prevent this from happening again. I'm going to go into therapy and work on my childhood issues. I'm going to get trackers on my phone. Whatever the detailed plan is, there has to be a detailed plan to make the person that you're with feel safe. And the last one is a detailed plan on how you're going to fall back in love together, or make your current love, if you are in love, because obviously you just don't fall out of love when somebody destroys you. There's still love there. So what's the plan on how to strengthen the current love that we have? And that can be anything from, getting to know your partner's love language to going back to the courting behavior, opening doors for one another, going back to those fundamental respectful things, talking to each other with respect. I can't tell you how many times I talk to a couple, and I've fallen into this area myself many of times. You just, you're together 5, 10, 15, 20 years. You just start taking your spouse for granted, and complacency sets in, and there's no longer the fundamental please and thank yous, So you got to inject fun and random things into your relationship. These are the proactive little measures that help continually take those pesky little stones out of your shoes. So perhaps you're already well down the path of frustration with your partner and you're questioning your relationship. That's fine. Wherever you are is fine. None of this is easy. None of this is easy. Oh my God. From panic attacks to nightmares to anger to enragement to frustration um, to oh my God. It's like your choices were stolen from you. Your choices were robbed from you. Um, so much was robbed from you. Um, so none of this is easy. None of this is easy. Yeah, this is I've been told I've been told losing a parent is, I mean, it's trauma is different. Trauma is absolutely different. But I've been told countless times this is by far the hardest thing I've ever had to deal with. None of this is easy. I want you to know that none of this is easy, and you are not alone. Always remember that no matter how much distance between you and your mate right now, you can still write a whole new ending to your story by learning and implementing the skills that make a relationship last. And, if you're not happy, don't stay. And I don't mean that, oh, I gave this 2 weeks or 2 months and I'm not happy. No, there's many variables. Sometimes you have small children together. Sometimes, and so many things make a huge difference. If the person who betrayed you is truly remorseful, truly sorry, truly apologize, takes full responsibility, you have a lot more to work with rather than somebody who doesn't do all those things. So, I mean, there's a lot of variables that go into play, but make sure whatever decisions you do make, you give yourself back power. Like I said, our choices were stolen from us with this. You got to give yourself choices. Give yourself back the power to make the choice. I'm choosing to stay, or I'm choosing to get a divorce, or I'm choosing to do that. I'm making choices now. You took my choices away. Now I'm giving myself choices. If you choose not to stay, that's fine as well. However, please give yourself the choice to be happy. Choose to be happy. Just choose to be happy, walking the path to happiness, and ensure that you create the future that you need, you want, you desire, and you deserve. So that is my class. If anybody has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer. But if not, don't ever hesitate to reach out to me. I am an intrapersonal relationship coach. So basically what that means is I deal with people's relationships with themselves primarily. Obviously, I deal with betrayal. I deal with betrayal trauma. I deal with trauma. I deal with interpersonal relationships, whether you're married or dating or what have you. But I also deal with the relationship you have with yourself, because if you do not have a strong relationship with yourself, you really don't have the necessary tools and resources to create strong relationships around you. All right. All right. Until next time, God bless.